Beulah is one of our Endangered Houses Fund projects. It's an approach to conservation that Sydney Living Museum started about 7 or 8 years ago on the basis that we couldn't keep acquiring new properties and expanding our portfolio forever, and that the best use for an old house especially could be for someone to live in it and for the house to be able to be modified and adapted to make it comfortable for modern living. Each of the projects that we've taken on has had quite significant challenges in terms of the state of dilapidation of a historic house, and one of our specialisations as an organisation is the knowledge and skills to be able to analyse an old building and work out how to carefully preserve and retain its important elements. One of the approaches we're taking with Beulah is to try to work out how to do a modern addition to the building which could accommodate all the new things that you need so that the historic building itself can be preserved relatively intact. So in order to be able to start work on the house, we've had to concentrate on the reconstruction of the access road and the reconstruction of the bridge for modern vehicle access.
We bought the property in 2010 and knew all along that, because there's no road access in at that stage, that we would have to rebuild the road and bridge. The bridge is believed to still be the oldest bridge on mainland Australia on private property. There is still conjecture about the date it was built. There's contradictory evidence about whether it was built in the 1830s or the 1850s. But even if you take the 1850s date, it is still probably the oldest bridge. We're
trying to conserve the original fabric of the place, but also to adapt it so that it's able to be used for modern purposes. So this bridge, which is a quite important historic bridge, has to continue to function as a bridge. So it's an engineering structure as well. And a key criterion for the load limit of the bridge was that you have to be able to get a fire truck across the bridge at some point in case there was ever a fire on the property or at one of the buildings. So it's designed for a modern load of 13.5 metric tonnes, which is quite a large load. We looked at flying a new structure over the entire old bridge to save the original fabric, but it was decided that would actually damage the original fabric even more than getting rid of it. So we ended up reverting to an idea of, as now, pretty much rebuilding it like for like, just using concrete instead of the original timber.
When we first arrived, it was basically an old overgrown bush track. Some clearing had taken place by others with some felling of trees, but essentially it was a dirt bush track with a lot of sandstone, and there was some historical cobbles coming through the surface as well, which were, I think, dated back to the 1830s.
There's an archaeologist here as we pulled away the original timber beams and bearers and stripped back the topsoil. We found more of the original decking and bearers extending through into the abutments, but nothing beyond what we had probably expected to find.
Being of significant value, the old sandstone there, we've actually wrapped the existing causeway with some geofabric and plywood, just as a buffer for any falling formwork, old sandstone, concrete, any of the materials that will, with the works taking place.
The next stage was forming concrete headwalls on top of the abutments. So equipment in here to form those on site.
There's approximately 3 tonnes of steel, reinforcing steel under the concrete. Volumes of concrete have added up to approximately 9.6 cubic metres.
Then the large preformed concrete bearers, which have been built in the factory in Wollongong, were brought in and placed in place.
So these are basically the plates that the beams will be sitting on. Just got a rubber pad, a bit of polystyrene, and sitting on a stainless steel plate, which just kind of acts as an anti-slip, and just to separate both the concrete beam and the concrete head wall.
So the same numbers and as much as possible the similar profile to the original timber bearers were put in place, with the timber decking and the handrails then sort of fixed on as the final step.
So we've pre-drilled, countersunk, and we've chem-set every single anchor into the beams, which is going to hold the decking board down. And then we've fixed all the stainless steel brackets to the actual outside hardwood beam there for the handrail. You can see here we've actually installed the handrail now.
In the 4 years that I've been coming up to this property, the creek has never been beyond a trickle. One of our neighbours who was to the south, who was lived on the property for all her life, had told us she had memories of the creek rising and sort of flowing rapidly, but we were starting to think that was apocryphal. But yes, 2/3 of the way through the construction of the bridge, we got the phone call on the day of the storms.
Being the day it was, the water rising all the way to basically the underside of the timber beam here, and it was just pushing through. And we actually had a work platform which was underneath the beams, which we'd still needed, which was pushed along, and it's probably about half a mile down the creek at the moment. So that was a spectacle to watch.
Oh, it's been fantastic seeing it finally come to fruition after over 3 years of planning for it.
It's been a pleasure to work on something with such historical value that this has, and it's something really looking forward to see the finished product with the hardwood beams and timbers, and yeah, it's going to be good.
I think we're delighted with the outcome, and it's fantastic to be able to drive back over this road again.